Hello and welcome back to Paddock and Track, the show where we bring you news on and off the track. My name is Amaan and I'm joined as always by my lovely co-host Max.
Hey guys.
And today, it's finally time, the end of the 2024 Formula One season.
Yes, so
Oh, very good one.
it was a very good one. Honestly, it was so much better than last season.
Oh, for
let's be
sure, for
honest.
sure. I mean, going into this, we were pretty cynical about it, especially after looking at last season. We were like, oh man, it's going to be a Red Bull runaway. But no, it was not.
Yeah.
Although we did see Max Verstappen winning the World Championship still, it still was a very exciting season for many teams
Yeah.
on the grid, and maybe some that you wouldn't have expected, too, at the beginning of the season.
Yeah, so speaking of what we might not have expected, I want to start by going over our predictions.
Yes.
And then going into what actually happened. So we made predictions in one of our very first episodes for how the season would turn out.
Oh, yeah.
We'll recap really quickly, and then we'll dive into it. So for me, for constructors, we'll start with constructors. I had Red Bull first, and then Ferrari, McLaren, Mercedes, Alpine, Aston, Williams, Stake, Alpha. Well, I wrote AlphaTauri apparently. The V-Carb, and then Haas in last place.
Well, I mean, mentioning the AlphaTauri, it was still AlphaTauri while we were recording
the
that,
day,
so
yeah.
they changed it, I think, afterwards, which is, wow, a long time ago.
Yeah.
We've been used to that V-Carb name. For me, I had Red Bull, McLaren, Ferrari, Mercedes, Aston, Alpine, Williams, AlphaTauri, Stake, and then Haas.
So this was very interesting. So looking at the real results, neither of us expected McLaren.
Well, okay, yes. You expected less than I did. I said they were going to have that jump.
Yeah, I put McLaren
Yes,
in
and
third place.
You called me pretty dumb for that
See,
one.
but here's the thing. I don't think anyone
No one would expect
would have
this
thought.
one,
Yeah. But hey, I predicted Mercedes correctly. Mercedes fourth place. I got that.
I had
one.
Mercedes fourth place as well.
Well, okay.
And then I'd Aston fifth as well, you know.
But I think we both also thought that Red Bull would do a lot better, and I think
yeah.
a big part of that is just that Perez was not putting up a lot of points, and it kind of all fell on the shoulders of Max Verstappen.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, Mercedes. Oh, sorry. Sergio Perez did fall flat this season.
Definitely.
And that was really hurt Red Bull because they did finish in third in the constructors, especially after their dominant performance last year. And obviously, we know that it was Max Verstappen that was mainly carrying it, but Perez did pick up a couple key wins. He's also gotten many points finishes during that 2023 season as well.
Yeah.
So he did end up second in that drivers' championship. So he definitely fell off a cliff.
yeah,
this
definitely.
season.
And looking at the rest of it, honestly, I think we're not that far off. I had Alpine actually above Aston. I really did not think they were going to be as good as they were this year. I thought, and really they weren't that good this year. When you look at the gap between Mercedes and Aston Martin, it's like crazy. Mercedes has ended the season with 468 points.
Yeah.
Aston was at 94.
Wow, it just shows that how how much of a difference some of these teams are. I
Yeah.
mean, we have these big market teams obviously in the top four, and then we have these other teams just below them.
Yeah.
And it's really insane to see. I feel like my biggest surprise was for me, I think, was Haas. They did a really good job.
Yeah.
I had them down in last, and they finished seventh, and they had really good performance, especially by Nico Hulkenberg and the questionable driving by Kevin Magnussen, especially in the beginning half of the season.
Yeah.
But he was protecting his teammate to get those points.
Yeah.
So, I mean, really commendable. I mean, at the beginning of the season, we saw both Haas and Alpine do an overhaul of their teams where it was very, very uncertain about how these teams were going to carry out. And we didn't think it was going to be a great showing for these two teams. But Haas did a really good job picking up these key finishes, especially Hulkenberg. He had a really, really commendable season. And obviously, we saw it during Abu Dhabi. He did qualify fourth. So it was really good, especially in the car that they have at Haas.
Yeah, and I mean, it was fourth then with a penalty down to
Yeah.
seventh, but still, yeah, like their Haas's performance this season, I think, shocked a lot of us.
Yeah.
And again, it's not like they were so incredible. I mean, at the end of the day, they had 58 points. They came in seventh in the constructors, but that's a lot better than we both thought they were going to do. I also had them in dead last. I really did not expect much from Haas, and I think we should have expected more. The leaving of Günther Steiner, we were
Yeah.
like, there's no way.
No way.
He was like the face of Haas.
Yeah, we were like,
it
oh,
felt
they're
like
done.
he was the only one that was keeping the ship together. But
Yeah.
I mean, it seemed to work out. You know,
Mm-hmm.
they came 7th again. Not the most amazing, but better than they have in the past.
Their new team principal did a good job as well leading the team.
Yeah.
So I think it was really nice for Haas though.
Yeah, so very good. I think again, like you said, very good result from Haas. V-Carb only managing to come up to 8th.
Well, I predicted that.
Yeah, I had them in 9th, so they did better than I thought. But, you know, it was there was some moments with RB where they looked so good, and they looked so fast, and then other moments where they just looked terrible. And bringing in Liam Lawson,
Half of it was Ricardo though. Yeah.
yeah, you know, bringing in Liam Lawson, it felt like it had an immediate effect, and then that kind of just went away.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say they were terrible. They just were never very good. They were very middle of the pack, very middle in terms of their driving. You know, we all love Yuki Tsunoda. I think that's fair to say.
Yes.
But this was not the best year from VCarb. And yes, Yuki Tsunoda put up some good performances. It's hard with Liam Lawson and Ricardo because they didn't race the whole season. Yuki Tsunoda, yes, he put in some very good performances, but it wasn't enough.
No, not at all. I mean, even then, like, he is in a place where he's going to be overshadowed by that other team as well. And Lawson now being promised that Red Bull seat, very unfortunate for Yuki. He's been putting in that hard work for the Racing Bulls.
Yeah.
And it's just unfortunate for him. I mean, the team just didn't really perform as well as we hoped it would.
Yeah.
So...
and then the other team that did honestly terrible was Williams. Williams down in 9th. You know, I had them
7th.
Yeah, I think what would that be? Sorry, I cannot count today. Yes, I also had them in 7th. Not a good season from them.
No.
It was just hard to watch for those William fans if they exist, which I don't really know anymore. But
well, I mean, it's nice to watch a race where the cars are still on the track.
Yeah.
And that seems to be a lot about Williams, where they were never on the track because they always seem off the track and their debris seemed to be on the track.
Yeah.
So, like, all their crashes, not really great. I mean, we saw Logan Sargent beginning of the season, Franco Colapinto second half. It didn't seem that much of a difference with their crashes.
No.
But, I mean, maybe Colapinto's a little better than Logan, unfortunately. But, but the crashes are the same.
Yeah,
I feel like.
the amount of money and time spent within that Williams team, just fixing cars. Honestly, I am impressed with those.
Their cars half the time. Like when,
I'm impressed with those Williams engineers that stuck with it because that must have been so. I hope they got paid extra because but honestly, they probably didn't because Williams is like running out of money now.
Yeah,
because they had to repair the car so many times.
They don't have no money. I mean, they had no chassis for that one time when Sargent had to.
And they've and Albon too. They couldn't fix the car. They've had times. They had 2 times this season where they couldn't fix the car in time. And okay, we can't get into this. This is the end of season review. Okay, what I think is silly is they in a previous race. They couldn't fix Sargent's car in time. They couldn't fix Albon's car in time. Yeah, so they said, we'll give up Logan's car. So they gave up Logan's car, they gave it to Albon. He didn't even do that well in that race. And then the thing is, you just taken the car away from Logan Sargent, who has done his job. Well, did he do it very well?
No.
Realistically, probably not. But he has done his job. He has qualified. He has kept the car in one piece. And now you're telling him he can't drive because they can't fix the other car in time.
Because Albon himself crashed the car.
Yeah. And then a second time, Albon crashes. And then they don't give away Colapinto's car. They let Colapinto still drive, and they made Albon sit out. It's kind of interesting. I understand that they're trying to get points. I can understand this. And yes, Logan Sargent, he didn't do a very good job. Let's be honest with ourselves. He was not a fast driver. As much as I might love Logan Sargent, he was not fast.
He was pretty bad, actually.
However, it's not really fair to say to one driver, we're going to give away your car because you're not fast. But then to another driver, we're not going to give away your car because you might get us points. I just don't think that's fair. It doesn't really make sense.
It's always been unfair. I mean,
well, it makes sense. I just don't think it's fair.
No, I mean, everything it shouldn't be fair. It's a business. They are trying to do something.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, they only scored 17 points, a measly 17. Mm-hmm. So,
yeah,
you know.
And then Stake was a disappointment. I had them in eighth place.
Well, I had them in ninth, so it wasn't really that much of a difference.
But 4 points. I mean, come on.
A measly 4 points.
It was worse than Williams.
They went almost every race without scoring a point until Qatar, where Zhou Guanyu pulled off that miracle drive to score those 4 points for them. And, it's pretty bad season for Sauber. That was really, it was not pretty bad, really bad season.
It was sad.
It was sad. Highlight of their season was their 52-second pit stop with Bottas. Very nice. Another, you want to see them highlights, you should go on YouTube, find them their P19, P20 highlights. It's pretty nice. Maybe occasional P17 maybe.
This was not a stake. This is not Sauber's year. Sauber is, as we've said, going to be leaving next season. We know that.
Yeah.
In 2026.
Yeah.
They'll be out and Audi will be in. I'm excited to see Audi in there. But it's sad for the end of Sauber. We'll see how next season goes for them, but it's kind of
Sauber's been in the sport for a long time.
Yeah.
And its end are not that great. So unfortunate for them.
Yeah. But going back up to the top for a minute here. We didn't really get into this in our last episode, so I want to get into it now. McLaren taking the World Championship just barely by 14 points in the final race of the year. A very, very good drive, especially in that last race from Lando Norris, but even throughout the season, very, very good drives from Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri. The two of them, there was talks for a little bit, and I don't really think it was very warranted of Lando winning the Drivers' Championship. It was a little questionable, but both of them, both Norris and Piastri, put in very, very solid performances throughout the season. There was a couple times where tensions seemed to be high within the team, and then it seemed like not really. It seemed like they were still okay. And that's, I think, important, to keep that morale up.
Yeah.
Especially after races like Hungary. Things were a little weird then. And so I think it was good, especially like look at Sao Paulo too. There was a lot of switching around of the drivers, and so it was good, I think, to see that morale still seemed to be high within that team.
Yeah.
Because of course that's an important thing. It's hard to be a team that works together if the two drivers don't like each other.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen things like that before. Teams like that, like Ocon and Alonso.
Yeah. And Nico Rosberg and Lewis Hamilton.
Oh wow, that's infamous right there.
Yeah.
I mean, but even though they did still win though, right?
They did, but they didn't. I think it's harder when you don't work as a team.
Yeah.
They made a whole story about that in the F1 video games. So clearly, this is an important part of Formula One. If you've played those Breaking Point games, you'll know what I'm talking about there. But it's like, it's when the team is dysfunctional, it makes it seem, at least if nothing else, it makes it seem more chaotic. And then that's never good for you.
Also, then your team is less. I mean, I don't know. Some people, maybe your team is less likable.
Yeah.
Also, too. I mean, it's nice to have a unified team because I think McLaren, for the most part, has been like portrayed as the good guys, and Red Bull has been like the bad guys.
Yeah.
So like, especially this season. So I mean, it's good. It's good to keep that good guy like front up too, so that you can bring in more viewership, more fans, all that too.
And then we saw Ferrari in second place. So good result for Ferrari again, coming up just barely short. And it was tough too because Leclerc just had such a good race in the final race.
Season of his career too, Leclerc.
Yeah,
he had a really good season.
And even Carlos Sainz too. I mean, they both had race wins.
Yes,
they both did very well. They both had low points and they both had high points.
Yeah.
So I think the problem is that those low points were very, very low. I mean,
Canada.
we keep talking about it, but Canada this season, Leclerc, it was sad. It just felt like it just worse and worse every lap. But you look at, Monza, Monaco.
The important wins for Ferrari.
Yeah, and so there's been times where Ferrari has really looked fast, and they really have been fast. Australia is another good one, where Carlos Sainz managed to win straight after having his appendix out. They had really good results, definitely. It's just a matter of being consistent, and I think they just weren't consistent enough. You had really good points, and then you had terrible points, where Ferrari just looked bad.
Yeah, I mean,
And, yeah.
at the end of the day, Ferrari is still Ferrari, and we've said this a lot of times. Questionable decisions by the teams. Yeah. Sometimes the driver's not showing up all the way. I mean, it's just at the end of the day, they are still Ferrari that we love and also hate. So, that's how it is.
Yeah. So going over to the Drivers' Championship now, I think here's where things really kind of got a little crazy, especially from what we had.
Oh, especially our second place. Oh.
We won't go all the way through the list because it would take forever, and then I would forget inevitably what place I had everybody in. But if we look at the list, we see, I think both of us predicted Verstappen winning the championship.
Yes.
That was kind of a no-brainer. Yes, the car looked kind of meh at some points, but at the end of the day, I mean, he pulled it together. He scored 437 points.
Yeah.
Which is most of the team's points.
Yeah.
It's about like 4/5 of their points, so that's a lot. But so I think that one was kind of a no-brainer for both of us. The one that surprised us both was Lando Norris.
I had him down in 5th place actually.
Yeah, me too. Me too. And he was much faster than I think anyone would have predicted. He finally got his first win, so that's good for him.
Yes.
And then he was just fast. And again, I think he wasn't consistent. Also,
the car.
Yes, and the car was lightning quick. And I think some things we noticed with that consistency. Again, like we were talking about with Ferrari, he had some low points, like Austria. But really, his low points were not too incredibly low. That I think he was able to come back, and he had some solid performances like Miami, like Abu Dhabi.
Yeah.
And so he had good performances where he just looked quick, and he was quick, and that really helped him to get to that second place in the drivers.
And again, Lando, obviously we had these high points, but there were also some low points, growing pains, I think I would term it, because he has been used to where getting second place was really good for him. Like, oh wow, second place. But then he started winning. After that first win, it's something like his demeanor changed a little bit. It was in the middle of the season. It worked out in the end, but like in the middle, I think it got to his head.
I think he came back to himself a little bit.
He did.
Yeah, there was like the first few races after his first win after Miami, when he was on the podium, he was just kind of like sulky and like sad.
Yeah.
And it was like, yeah, I get that, second place, third place is not where you want to be. You want to be first place. You want to be challenging for the Drivers' Championship. But realistically, I don't think this was the season for it. Maybe next season. We'll see how fast the McLaren is, but this was not the season for it.
It was a maturity thing. I think he was put into that position way too soon. Way too abruptly, I think.
Yeah.
Too abruptly. I don't think it's too soon.
Yeah,
just too abrupt. Because yes, McLaren was not the greatest team. Actually, not that much at all since maybe like 2014. But like now, they jumped, and Lando Norris had to like play catch up to become that guy, to be the face. Because obviously we know Oscar Piastri, second year guy. He's still young, and he's been performing well for his youngness, but Lando Norris has been on the team for a while, so when McLaren has to rise, he has to be the one to lead them.
Yeah.
And all eyes were on him. So even then, when you get that taste of winning, it's like you have more competitiveness inside you as well. So I get that he was disappointed that he can't get first every time, but like there comes a time where you have to be like mature and keep your head high too.
Yeah.
To know that you were performing really well, and you were, I say, fighting for world championships now. Yeah.
And then speaking of Oscar Piastri, I mean, 4th place for him in again only his second season, barely 4th place. To be fair, he was only 2 points ahead of Carlos Sainz, but he beat Carlos Sainz.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, Charles Leclerc ahead of him by a decent margin. But not Charles Leclerc. Also, I think is someone that a lot of people didn't think about. And didn't realize how close he was to Lando Norris.
Yeah.
Because they're talking about like Lando Norris being a world champion, and they don't think about the fact that like Charles Leclerc was not far behind him.
Yeah.
I mean, he ended the season like not that far, 18 points.
Leclerc was closer to Lando than Lando was to Max. I mean, that's just how it was.
That's kind of always how it was, and I think a lot of people failed to see that. It was still a very good season from Charles Leclerc, and again, in a season where Ferrari was really just not very good. And then again, Oscar Piastri barely ahead of Carlos Sainz, but still a good season for Carlos Sainz. That's not to discount Carlos Sainz in any way.
Yeah.
And then George Russell outperforming Lewis Hamilton.
I think it's good that George Russell did outperform Lewis Hamilton because he's going to be the one taking over Mercedes for the next season. But also, it's not the greatest thing either because they definitely started prioritizing Russell more.
Yeah.
And, I mean, it's not that great that the outgoing Lewis Hamilton is only 22 points behind you. Mm-hmm. I guess it's good for the team, but, like, still, George Russell, he needs to, like, pull away if he wants to fill in those shoes of Lewis Hamilton.
Yeah.
But not he didn't do bad at all. He did pretty good this season, especially in that Mercedes where they were slow. They were slow at times. They were pretty slow, and they recently got faster, so that's pretty good. But George Russell, he did pretty good for the car, but I think he needs to do better to live up to that Mercedes name.
Yeah. And then Lewis Hamilton, again, like we said, Lewis Hamilton in 7th, but Sergio Perez 8th.
Yeah, I had him second.
Place.
I had him second
Me too.
place.
8th place.
152 points.
Compared to Max Verstappen's 437.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, it was time for him to go. We talked about that last episode, so we won't drag it out, but
wow,
it was sad. 8th place is,
That was really bad. You were supposed to be the second guy to Verstappen. You're supposed to be the guy to bring help with the constructors, not win the drivers, obviously, but get the constructors' points up. He single-handedly got them down to 3rd. I feel like that was pretty bad.
And then Fernando Alonso 9th. So I think a lot of people, we didn't really talk about him a ton because he kind of just sat there in the background, but he was picking up points.
70 out of the 94 points, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. And Pierre Gasly in 10th.
Gasly, 42 points.
Yeah.
And most of those points did come from, obviously, his second place in Sao Paulo.
Yeah, but like a lot of those points coming like right towards the end.
Yeah.
And I believe he was actually 3rd place in Sao Paulo.
Oh, was he? Oh, was Ocon second?
Yeah,
okay.
But still, either way, I mean, hey, 42 points for him.
Yeah.
In a car that was not very good, and it really only came to him in like that last half of the season, like you said.
Yeah.
Even really the last like quarter of the season. So, very good from him. Nico Hülkenberg, 11th place in Haas, with 41 points, so a large part of the points for them. And then Yuki Tsunoda, 12th place. 30 points out of V-Carb's, I believe 48, I want to say. Again, yes, drivers were replaced halfway through the season. However, Yuki Tsunoda managed to get 30 points still. And he was like way better. I don't know. He's just so much better than the 2 teammates that they've given him.
Yeah, and one of those teammates is going to go to the better team.
Oh, that makes me angry. Yeah. I'm sorry. We'll talk about that in a second, I promise. And then we see Lance Stroll. He still got 24 points. He got more than Ocon. Ocon in 14th behind him.
Isn't Ocon's only points when he won, when he got like his most of it, the bulk of his
a
points
lot of his
when
points.
He got his second
yeah,
place.
Because that would be 18 points for second place. You know, we'll leave them in there. We know a lot about Ocon. We've talked about him.
Magnussen, 16 points. 16. I mean, he was basically the second guy to Hülkenberg. He was the guy protecting Hülkenberg. He was the guy taking out the grid. He was, the guy who brought the excitement to the grid.
Yeah.
All the crashes, all the penalties.
Yeah.
All that. He was definitely giving the FIA the run for their money.
Oh, definitely, yeah. We see also Alex Albon, 12 points. Yeah.
He was disappointing. And we're going to do like our predictions for like the future as well. And I have something about Albon later on. I think I mentioned this before too, but we'll get into that after.
I mean, and I had Albon much higher in my prediction.
I had Albon, actually, I had Albon in like 11th place.
Yeah, so, sad from him. Daniel Ricciardo picking up 12 points in his half season. So I think fairly decent for what the car was and in half of a season. But still, I mean, when you compare it to Yuki Tsunoda, there's just no competition. And then what's funny to me, Ollie Behrman, who only raced in
2 races.
2 races? 3 races.
Did he?
Yeah, when Magnussen was sick.
Oh, Magnussen.
And then So he raced with Haas twice and Ferrari once.
He raced when Carlos Sainz had his appendix taken out for Ferrari.
Yes.
He raced when Magnussen was serving his suspension.
Yeah.
And then he raced when Magnussen was sick.
Yes. So 3 races, and he managed to pick up 7 points. Most of those were when he raced with Ferrari in, I believe it was Saudi Arabia.
It was Saudi Arabia. But he did pick up a couple points for Haas at Azerbaijan, too.
And then I think the thing that people fail to recognize, Ollie Behrman in 3 races picked up more points than Franco Colapinto. And people are always talking about, Franco Colapinto is so good.
Yeah.
He's so incredible.
And it's because he's Argentinian. I think that's what they are. It's
well,
all those Argentinian fans that are...
Yeah, it's hard to say. But, Colapinto picked up 5 points in more races than Ollie Behrman. Ollie Behrman picked up 7. And, yes, one of those races, he was in a Ferrari. But still, it was the man's first time driving an F1 car.
Yes. Yeah, he was
or at least
fighting for his life in
a race. Yeah, I mean, his neck was like... I don't even know what to tell you. I mean, I think he gets overshadowed because he wasn't in the car for as long.
Mm-hmm.
But Ollie Behrman, this I think is good. Is showing good things to come.
Yes.
Because, again, he picked up a decent amount of points.
Yeah, he did.
And yes, in Sao Paulo, he was kind of terrible. Like, he kept spinning the car every 3
Yeah.
seconds. But he doesn't have much experience in the wet, okay? It's not his fault.
All right,
and not in an F1 car. So
Well, to be fair, Colapinto did the same thing.
Yeah, so it's hard to say.
And he crashed.
Hey, at least Ollie Behrman finished the race.
Sao Paulo was a movie.
And then Zhou Guanyu, 4 points.
Yes.
Woo.
Zhou Guanyu. He scored all the points. He's been carrying stake.
Yeah, so 20th for Zhou Guanyu. And then Liam Lawson,
tied him.
To his credit, did get 4 points as well. But yeah, and Valtteri Bottas managed to finish 22nd in a 20-car grid. But what's most important is that Logan Sargent is not last. He is technically 23rd.
Well, he's
technically,
okay,
Logan Sargent is 23rd
He's
with
tied,
0 points.
He's tied for last. He's tied for last with Bottas,
Jack
Logan, and Doohan.
What matters is Logan was not last. That's
he was 23rd in a 20-driver grid.
See, I predicted Sargent would be last, so I was wrong. So
okay, but you predicted him at 20th.
Yeah, but he wasn't 20th. But he was.
Yeah,
he wasn't last. He wasn't last.
All right.
And to be fair, I predicted Magnussen in 19th, so Magnussen did much better than I was expecting.
Yeah.
And Bottas also did much worse than I was expecting. But Zhou Guanyu was about right where I thought he would be, so that was good. But honestly, I think the biggest thing was the top of the grid was I think where the biggest surprises came.
Yeah.
With Perez just kind of not being very good and Norris being very good. Mm-hmm. And now I want to circle back to Perez. Perez has been officially dropped, and Liam Lawson is in that car.
I don't know how I feel about this one.
I feel bad about this one.
I don't know about this one, guys.
Here's the thing. Liam Lawson has been with AlphaTauri and then now VCarb for a couple races. I don't think it's even probably been a full season. He raced a couple races with AlphaTauri in 2023 when Daniel Ricciardo was out because of his broken wrist injury.
Yeah.
And then he raced the second half. Well, a little less than the second half, but a couple races this season, as we know with VCarb. But now he's been the choice to be put into the Red Bull car.
It's a choice.
Yuki Tsunoda is right there.
Yeah.
And he's been with this team for a very long time. And he has been fast with this team for some time.
I think there's reasons to this, though. And the reasons seem valid because here's this. Honda and Red Bull's relationship, it's coming to an end. I don't know when. When did they say that Honda was
2026, Honda's going to go with Aston Martin.
So that's the thing. That's the kicker right there. We know Fernando Alonso signed a 2-year deal. And I think it ends in 2026. So we see that. So Alonso out, Yuki in. I think that's what's going to happen.
Yeah,
Honda wants that Japanese driver.
Yeah. We've seen this in it's been for a long time Honda has been like this.
Yes.
And yeah, I just think it's silly because Yuki is fast and I feel like they're not giving him the opportunities that they should. Mm-hmm. That's not to say that Liam Lawson is a bad driver. It's not to discredit Liam Lawson. It's just to say that I think Yuki Tsunoda is faster.
Yeah, he is. I think so.
And we're gonna see. We're gonna see what happens.
I mean, there are a few attitude issues with Yuki.
Yeah, Yeah, a couple times sometimes. But yeah, I just think that Yuki is genuinely like faster, and it's strange to me still. I understand there are probably reasons.
Also, yeah, I
But-
feel like another reason, in my opinion, too, is that they want a driver that will get out of Verstappen's way,
Yeah.
and Yuki will not do that.
No, Yuki will not.
Yuki will try to beat you,
Yeah.
and that's really good for him, but not in the interest of Red Bull. So I think that's also another reason why they didn't bring him in.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think Lawson's gonna be the guy to like. Well, I mean, yes-ish, but I feel like Yuki's more like hard-headed than he is. So.
Yeah, I feel like if you asked the two to switch positions, like Lawson would be much more likely to do that. So.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
At the end of the day, our predictions did not pan out, is what we learned.
No.
And it was okay. To summarize the season as a whole, it was a good season.
Yeah.
We saw a lot of different race winners. You've got people like Russell and Hamilton, Norris and Piastri. Yes, Verstappen won a couple in there, but not a ton.
Yes, we see Alpine double podium.
Yeah, and both Ferraris winning races.
Yes.
And Charles Leclerc winning in Monaco and Monza.
Wow.
I think it was a very, very good season, a very exciting season. There were some really, really good moments. There were some terrible moments, like, again, Canada. But there were some really, really great races. And I think we both had a really great time, doing this, talking about each race, sharing our thoughts.
Very, very fun.
And we thank you all for listening, for putting up with us.
So all those people out there, I don't know, maybe 3 people out there.
That's all right. We're working on it.
We'll work on it, yeah.
But we promise we will return next season.
We will try to be more on time, I think. I feel like
We'll
at the
do
beginning
our
of the season,
best.
we were more on time.
We'll do our best. But yes, we will be back for next season.
Next season will be nice. And as we're recording, the new season is 3 weeks away.
Yes.
So we will be rolling out our predictions pretty soon before the season starts. And then we will bring you an episode, Australia. That's going to be the first one.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah.
And that does it for us on this episode of Paddock and
finale.
Track. The finale
first.
of the 2024
Yes.
season. And we will see you guys for the next one.
Goodbye.